Hello everyone, today is 5th of January, now it's 11 o'clock in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for the day in which I'll share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. It's a Sunday and happy weekend to you all, and today I will have a traditional Sunday live stream, community chat also at 3 o'clock Moscow time, and of course I will inform you about a live stream some 15 minutes before it starts through community page on YouTube and on my Telegram and the Twitter X page, and I hope you'll manage to join the conversation. As always, during this community chat, I will actively monitor chat. If I see any questions, I will try to give you informative answer about any topic. If I have an opinion, I will share it. Although, of course, when it comes to questions, I will start from questions that I might receive through PayPal platform, Boosty, or Patreon. So that's being said, let's go through some news now. And well, I have to start with this tragic news that the Kiev regime yet again committed war crime yesterday, attacking Russian journalists. So civilian car was targeted by a Ukrainian drone on Donetsk-Gorlovka highway. As a result of this attack, journalist of media outlet Izvestia Alexandra Martimyanov was killed, and several other journalists were wounded. Of course, Russian officials condemned this yet another terrorist attack and war crime of the Kiev regime, and demanded reaction from international journalistic associations, from UN and UN institutions, including UNESCO. Although, did you ever hear any criticism of Ukrainian Nazis and fascists from the West or from the organizations that are located in the West? I personally did not. So therefore, I don't think we will see any other reaction right now but silence, which is quite unfortunate, but that's the reality that we are living in. RIA Novosti also reporting that Russian air defense systems on duty intercepted 61 drones of Kiev regime that was launched to strike deep into Russian territory. At this point, no reports about casualties or significant damage on the ground, although during the day we might receive some update on that, and of course I will share additional information during the live stream if there will be some more news on that, and on my Telegram channel also. And when it comes to these long-range strikes of the Kiev regime, yesterday Defense Ministry of Russian Federation confirmed yet another ATACMS strike on Russian Federation. US-made ATACMS missiles were launched once again, this time towards Belgorod region. According to reports, 8 ATACMS were launched and all of them were intercepted by air defense systems. No reports about casualties or damage on the ground. Russian S-400 air defense systems and Panzer SM air defense systems managed to deal with these aerial targets, although Russian Defense Ministry is promising retaliatory strikes, which means that most likely in upcoming days we will see yet another long-range missile and drone strikes on military and logistics infrastructure of the Kiev regime, maybe on some energo infrastructure too. Although, even though initially there was a strong statements from Russian leadership that if such strikes will take place, Russia will consider assets, military assets of the countries, NATO member states that are participating in these strikes. First of all, US, UK, France. Russia will consider military assets of these countries as a legit target, and their expectations were that Russia may take some actions against these NATO assets. I don't think we will see such a level of retaliation from Russian side due to these long-range missile strikes on Russia, at least before 20th of January, because to me personally it seems like Moscow is determined to wait until new administration will be in place, in store in US, because I guess some members of Russian leadership are quite optimistic that they will manage to de-escalate situation in regards to Ukrainian crisis, in regards to relationships between US and Russia, West and Russia. I think that's a mistake. I'm quite sure about it actually, but yet again, let's give it a try. You know, maybe I'm wrong, and people that are promoting this restraint to be exercised are correct. We will find out. But if you are expecting that Russia will retaliate on NATO assets due to this yet another ATACMS strike on Russia, well, I guess you are mistaken. There will be no such retaliatory strikes. Unfortunately, you know, I was correct all along when I said quite a while ago now that if Russia will not take strong actions to deter Western ruling class, these long-range missile strikes will become sort of daily routine, as long-range drone strikes are, and I mean that's exactly what is happening almost every other day. Storm shadows and ATACMS are used to strike deep into Russia. I guess Scalp PGs also, French Scalp PGs also, although at least for now I did not see in the media any reports that Scalp PGs were deployed, but it is also a possibility for sure. Scalp PGs and Storm Shadows basically are same weapon system, exactly the same weapon system. Just, you know, in France these missiles have a Scalp PG name, in UK Storm Shadow. That's all the difference. So, you know, let's see. At least we can be sure that in upcoming days, Russia will, maybe even in next several hours, Russia will take retaliatory strike on military and logistics infrastructure of the Kyiv regime. That's for sure. Also, dear friends, when it comes to these long-range strikes of the Kyiv regime and NATO on the Russian Federation and the risks that they are creating for civilians, this morning we have this report that in Nizhnekamsk, Izhevsk, and the Perm airports have been, introducing emergency measures. They are not receiving planes, not letting planes to take off due to security reasons. I guess in these areas, air defense systems were working due to most likely incoming Ukrainian NATO drones. In few hours time we will probably have more information about this development, and of course I will share additional news in next updates. Also, TASS news agency is reporting that Defense Ministry of Russian Federation confirmed information about progress of the Russian armed forces in Nadia settlement area in LPR, and this settlement is now under full Russian control and completely liberated from Ukrainian Nazis and fascists. Meanwhile, in battles in Kursk salient area also intensifying, and we have this report that just in previous 24 hours, Kyiv regime lost about 540 military personnel in the Kursk salient area. At this point, according to reports that I see, Kyiv regime and has about units of about 12 brigades in the Kursk salient area. Overall number of militants of the Zelensky's terrorist regime can be from 10 to 15,000 at this point, although I guess even Kyiv regime itself don't know exactly how many terrorists and mass murderers they have in the Kursk salient area. Hopefully Russian armed forces will eliminate all of them. Most likely that's exactly what is going to happen. TASS news agency is also reporting that, Western propaganda outlets and Western so-called journalists that are extreme Russophobes, for example, Julian Robke from Bild, is in hysteria not for the first time, because they, Bild and this Julian Robke come up with a hysterical information article that Russian armed forces are about to start military operations in Dnipropetrovsk region, and most likely will reach the Dnipropetrovsk region in a couple of weeks' time, which is most likely true, by the way. Russian armed forces, according to some reports, are just 7 to 8 or 10 kilometers away from the Dnipropetrovsk region. So I guess in a couple of weeks' time, liberation of this historically Russian territory will begin. So Julian Robke from Bild definitely has some reasons to be hysterical, because, as I said, he's extreme Russophobe, by the way. And whenever Russian armed forces achieving success, he's going crazy on his social platforms. I don't really pay much attention to it, but I see on other channels reactions on his hysterical posts. Anyways, let's continue. Vzglyad newspaper is reporting that, well, German MP Roderich Kiesewetter is claiming that Olaf Scholz most likely will visit Moscow before 23rd of February, when early elections should take place in Germany, early parliamentary elections. I don't know how trustworthy this person, this German MP, Roderich Kiesewetter, is, or what he knows about plans of the Scholz or plans of Moscow in regards to meeting between Putin and Scholz. But me personally, I have some doubts that Russian president in his busy schedule will find an hour or two to spend talking to this clown and CIA asset that Scholz is. I still don't understand how Russian president managed to find in his schedule hours or to have a phone conversation with him recently, and why. I mean, what is the point, for God's sake, right? But who knows, man? Who knows? We are living in strange times when almost anything is possible. Nothing really is surprising us no more. So therefore, who knows? Maybe Scholz will visit Moscow, although I don't know, man. I'm skeptical on that. We will see. Meanwhile, outgoing head of U.S. State Department, Antony Blinken, is making headlines once again with some cringe statements. And for example, he spoke about arming Ukrainian Nazis and the fascists way before special military operation began. And Russian high-ranking officials, Russian public figures commented on the statements of Blinken and said that, well, that's exactly what Russian side was saying for all this time, that West was preparing Kiev regime for military operations. West was provoking this conflict, and unfortunately, eventually, Moscow had no option but to start special military operation to protect Russians Russians and everybody, by the way. I mean, Russians, it's not necessarily ethnic identity, right? I am a Russian. I'm a member of the Russian world, although ethnically I'm a Georgian Ossetian, right? So Russians means you are part of Russian world. So everybody in Donbass was obviously member of the Russian world. And if Moscow didn't start special military operation in 2022, I guess we can say that Kiev region would most likely start large-scale offensive on Donbass, and no one can really say level of casualties among civilians. I mean, we all know how Kiev regime's forces are operating in their controlled territories. They don't care about civilians at all, not even for a second. And therefore, Blinken basically, unwillingly, I guess, confirmed all the statements that Russia was making, Russian officials, that this conflict was provoked by US, by Western ruling class, and US and other NATO member states were pouring in weapons and money in the Kiev-controlled territory exactly to provoke this military conflict. Also, Blinken went to say that at some point Washington was concerned about possibility of Russia deploying nuclear weapons, changes in Russian. He mentioned changes in Russian nuclear doctrine, and in my personal opinion, he mentioned this topic for one reason only, which is that I guess Western ruling class did not stop working on this next phase of escalation, which is transformation of the Kyiv regime into a nuclear-armed regime. Many Western propaganda outlets come up already with their articles, and also officials in the West, articles that Kyiv regime is, well capable of creating atomic bombs, right? And while mentioning nuclear threat, Blinken basically once again pays the ground for this transformation of Kyiv regime into a nuclear-armed regime if Moscow will allow this to happen. Because after such statements, of course, it will be much easier for criminals, mass murderers, and the terrorists in Kiev, Zelensky and his associates, to come up and say that, you know what, Russian nuclear strike was inevitable, so therefore we had to build our own atomic bombs to deter Russia. That's what is going on. That's why, in my opinion, he mentioned nuclear threat, because Russian side was very clear that it has no intention to use nuclear weapons. And whenever there was talks about nuclear weapons, Russian president and there are many other high-ranking officials were stating very openly and directly that there are certain circumstances in which Russia might deploy nuclear weapons, and currently there are no such reasons in the place. At least Moscow don't see those necessity to use this extreme force, right? And so clearly Blinken is speculating, and his statements are definitely part of this attempt of Western ruling class to push this narrative of transformation of the Kyiv regime into a nuclear-armed regime and prepare ground for that. I hope Moscow pays attention to it, and hopefully everybody in Russian security services, Ministry of Defense, in the Kremlin understand that if Western ruling class are not deterred now, they will go ahead with this operation and they will transform Kyiv regime into a nuclear-armed regime, and then Russia will face nuclear blackmail and potentially even nuclear strikes, because atomic bombs in hands of Kyiv regime, that's like a hand grenade that is given to a monkey. It's just too dangerous, right? Yet again, I guess Moscow will wait until new administration is in place in US, and then give it another week or two, and I guess that's about it. If in first few weeks Moscow did not seize concrete steps from Washington towards a real de-escalation, not just the talks, but concrete steps towards real de-escalation, then I think Moscow will start operating on a whole different level to deter Western ruling class from transforming Kyiv regime into a nuclear-armed regime, because that's exactly the next phase of escalation after these long-range missile strikes. I hope I explained my reading of the big picture. Well, Zakharova, Maria Zakharova, official representative of Russian Foreign Ministry, as many other Russian officials, as I already said, also commented on statements of Blinken, and she basically said what I just said, that Blinken indirectly confirmed what Russian side was saying all along. Right, let's translate, by the way, for a little more detail. So Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova responded to a statement by US Secretary of the State Antony Blinken about their advanced supply of weapons about supply of advanced weapons to Ukraine before special military operation began. And then, quote, Russia has been talking about this for many years and about the pumping of weapons by United States and Britain in Ukraine, and about the endless NATO exercises in the Black Sea in violation of Russian borders, and about the dangerous rapprochement of military approaches of military aircrafts of the Western countries with their civilian aircraft in the airspace of our country. And then Zakharova goes to say that this is why one of the tasks of the special military operation is to demilitarize Ukraine and ensure Russia's security. So yes, maybe Blinken did not intend there to give Russian side additional proofs that West was pumping the regime with weapons to basically provoke military conflict, but that's exactly what he did. Meanwhile, by the way, a few more news. TASS news agency is reporting the Chancellor of Austria, Karl Nehammer, stated that he will resign due to political crisis. I believe coalition has divided now, has been broken, ruling coalition, and therefore I guess in a relatively short time elections will take place in Austria. Also, Austrian Chancellor Karl Nehammer of Austrian People's Party will step down from his post after talks with the Social Democrats failed to form a ruling coalition following parliamentary elections in September. So I don't know, either early elections or political crisis is going to continue in Austria until sides somehow will manage to create yet another coalition. And I will end this, I hope, short update. Let me check. Yes, relatively short update on this quite interesting news that China first time become a third beer exporter to Russia. I was a bit surprised to see this news this morning, by the way. I did not expect that. But yet again, man, Chinese companies are doing their best basically to establish themselves on the Russian market, especially now when there is opening opportunity, unique opportunity to do so with a relative ease because of absence of many Western companies on Russian markets. And this goes on all the segments of economy, even when it comes to beer production and beer exports to Russia. And let me give you some numbers, dear friends. So China is third right now, and it has exported 29.8 thousand tons of beer. If you ask me, I couldn't give you a name of single Chinese beer, by the way. Really, I mean, I have no idea about any Chinese beer. But, I mean, they are big on Russian market, I guess, right? So 29.8 thousand tons of Chinese beer was sold or exported to Russia. On the first place, traditionally, is Germany still. Germany exported to Russia 105.3 thousand tons of beer. And on the third place, also another traditional beer exporter to Russia, Czech Republic, which has exported 33.1 thousand tons of beer. So China is third now. And now, out of interest, by the way, when I will be in a supermarket, I'm gonna check section of their beers to see what is the names of these Chinese beers, man. Just for interest, I'm not gonna buy it for sure. But I'm not saying it's good or bad, by the way. I just I'm not familiar with this stuff, and therefore I will ignore it. But they are big, they are getting big, man. And this information I want to share with you. This information just to highlight what is happening on Russian markets, right? Chinese companies are, well, they are overtaking many segments, by the way, many segments that were previously held by Western companies or companies from the collective West, not necessarily by geographic West, but from the countries that are part of collective West, including South Korea, Japan, Australia, and so on, right? So interesting news, isn't it? And I will end this update on that, short update. Hopefully you will find it informative, interesting, and useful. And if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary just about anything. This is only way we can at least try to influence algorithm. Usually we fail, but sometimes we are managing to influence algorithms so much so that my videos are ending up in recommendations, and when that happens, more and more people are joining our community because they are seeing my channel first time, and there are many of them, I guess, liking it because as far as I understand, as I'm watching citizen journalists from other countries, from Western countries and from other regions, because I'm interested in honest opinion. I guess many people also are looking for Russian channels, and when they see recommendations channels, they are checking it out, and there are many members are subscribing, and I'm grateful for that. So yes, if you can, dear friends, please click that like button, leave some commentary, share information about my channel with your friends, online or offline in real life. And if you like my work, if you like my channels, if you think I deserve to be in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support this project with donation through PayPal or Boosty, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. All the links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment, including crypto wallet. This is it for now. Have a nice, wonderful day, and I see you at 3 o'clock Moscow time during the community chat live stream today. Bye for now.